Welcome to part 2 of the Tamiya Panigale build, and there are a few bits and pieces you'll see round and just sort of set round about at the moment. These are the primed pieces. Now just to quickly show you these are the sprues primed in Humbrol Trainer Yellow. Any matte Humbrol colour makes a good primer base coat. So they're the sprues sprayed in the primer yellow. These are a few parts that have been taken off the sprues to check assembly and what have you, and check the process for future painting. The next step after the priming was the bodywork in Humbrol Gloss Red 220. I'll show you that. Now I'll just bring this down here. And this is the first time I've used this particular gloss. It's actually Humbrol Ferrari Red, it is called, and it's definitely a much brighter, shinier shade of red than the standard Humbrol number 19. As you can see, we've got a nice gloss on there, if I can catch the light there. And this is part of the tailpiece, and I don't know how the colour will translate on the video camera, but this is a much glossier, shinier red than the standard Humbrol number 19 gloss. So I'm very pleased with that. I'm pleased with how that's come out and how that looks. Again, you'll see really good deep gloss on there. That's why I love the Humbrol colours. This is the right hand side fairing, just to give you a bit of an idea as well. So, and then we've got the nose piece just down here. And the tank just here, for example. So what we've got here is the upper and lower fairing pieces, the three rear fairing pieces, the front mudguard, which on this particular model should be carbon fibre. However, I'm not building it as a strictly straightforward Panigale S model. So the front mudguard is going to be matching, body colour matching in plastic, and the fuel tank. So that's all of the bodywork, all of the actual coloured bodywork sprayed in Humbrol Ferrari Red number 220. That's been left for 72 hours to cure. The next step on that will be the decals being applied to the fairing panels, the petrol tank and the rear tail seat section pieces, and then a clear coat, once that's set, will be applied on top of that. The next step for painting, however, just now, is going to be the engine sub-assemblies. The engine itself is going to be painted in Citadel Mithril silver. I'm a big fan of the Citadel metallic paint. Mithril silver, bolt gun metal and chainmail. The mithril silver is equivalent to aluminium, chainmail equivalent to steel, and bolt gun metal is equivalent to gunmetal. I like them because they have a very fine grain, and they represent engine aluminium incredibly well, more so than the Tamiya or the Humbrol equivalents, which have a much coarser metal flake and don't look quite so convincing, I don't think. So accepting the Humbrol metal coat range, which are a different thing altogether because they're polishable paints, and they're the kind of things that I use for the front brake discs. So that will be the engine, and then the sump, the rocker covers, and the timing chain cover rather, is going to be in a mix of titanium gold and bronze, Tamiya colours. If you look at reference pictures, you'll notice that they're a sort of goldish kind of colour. Now the next thing are the cast alloy components, being the swing arm, the subframe and the airbox, which make up the frame of the bike. Now the colour call-outs in the instructions call for various shades of black for these. However, if you look at reference pictures, you'll see that they're a slightly off black shade, almost a really dark gunmetal. What I'm going to do with these is I'm going to use a Tamiya Nato black, which is a favourite paint of mine to use for any plastic moulded tyres that you ever come across on a kit. I've got some more of the bits and pieces painted, which I'll show you in just a moment. But here is a mix in an empty Tamiya jar. This is a mix of 1 part bronze X33 and 1 part titanium gold X31, which gives, it's quite difficult to see in the jar and especially under this light, but this gives an incredibly good representation of the sort of Brembo gold that you would see on the wheels and frame of the 916, 748, 996, 998 range of Ducatis. So that's kind of worth knowing, and what I've done is I've mixed up about 5mm from the 2 pots, which has been enough to paint the engine parts and will be enough to paint any more sort of Brembo gold related parts, calipers and all sorts of things. So that'll keep that handy as an extra pot, because the bronze on its own I'm not likely to use a great deal of. So and in here I'm hoping that I just lift these out, and I'm hoping that the light currently will be good enough to give you an example of what I was referring to regarding the metal flake. Now if you look at this, if I can kind of move that about so it catches the light, you'll notice that there are quite distinct metal flakes. This is the timing case cover, time chain cover, generator cover, and the sump, and then the rocker covers here, which are in the mix of the bronze and gold. Now the engine, which is over here, which is painted in mithril silver, which is the equivalent of aluminium, as I said. Hopefully you can see there how fine and aluminium realistic it is for small parts, as I was referring to, unlike the Tamiya or Humbrol equivalents, which have quite large metal flakes. I really do like the Citadel metallics. Just for the record, they're no longer mithril silver, chainmail and bolt gun metal. They have different names now. I think one of them is lead belcher. That might be the bolt gun metal. I'm not sure. I would have to double check on that, but for some strange, unfathomable reason they changed a stack of the names of the Citadel paints. Anybody looking for those will need to look for their new names. And while we're here, you'll see the swinging arm, the subframe, and back here the airbox. That needs the NATO black touching up a little bit, where the front section is painted in the bronze to represent the section that holds the speedo, light unit, etc. So that needs a little bit of touching up. So once that's all fully set, a bit of masking tape and a quick squirt with the airbrush to get the front section of that, to get the black bits back on there. Right, so we've got a little preview here with the engine painted up and the sump, the rocker covers and the timing case cover fitted. You see the colour difference there between the sort of gold coloured, the Brembo gold coloured components, the sump and bits and pieces. The engine is going to have a bit of an oil wash. Now the purpose of that is not to make the engine look dirty or used. So it's basically going to be an all over wash with a bit of cleaning up, because it's just to highlight all the nooks and crannies and accentuate the shadows, because as detailed as these things are, with them being tiny, you often don't get the full effect without a bit of a wash to just highlight the shadow regions. So that's going to be the purpose of that. What I'm going to do just now, because so far this is coming together quite slowly, is I'm just going to sort of pre-assemble the swinging arm, the subframe and the headstock onto the engine as it would be on the real bike, so you can kind of get a bit of an idea as to how that is going to look. Okay, so here we are with the primary components assembled. Get that in focus, yep, that's fine. Everything's just held on at the moment, nothing's actually bolted on, but you can see there how the headstock airbox unit bolts onto in between the cylinders. The subframe bolts onto the rear cylinder and then through the airbox, which in turn is fastened to the front of the rear cylinder, and then the swinging arm bolts through the rear of the engine casing. I was trying to turn that over. It's a little bit tricky because I'm holding the camera with one hand and trying to turn it so that bits don't fall off, because obviously nothing's fastened as yet. But hopefully that will give you a bit of an idea of how the model obviously, but how the real bike itself goes together and why it's able to be so compact and light, and why it is so unique currently, being effectively frameless. So that's essentially how that's going to look. The NATO black on these should contrast really nicely with the satin black and matte black parts once they're on. And if you look at sample pictures, you'll notice they are a different shade. There's a couple of little points on the airbox that need touching up with some aluminium or steel coloured for the fasteners, and then I need to tape off that part of the headstock and just respray a little bit of that NATO black there, where I got some overspray of the Brembo gold colour. So that's where we're at just now. The single-sided swing arm and sump you can see there. And I'll try and get there you go. So as you can see, once that's all together and a few of the extra pieces on it, will start looking more like a motorbike. So that'll do for this video. Onwards with the next lot, which is going to be some of the satin black pieces, the gloss black for the exhaust and the alclad steel. A bit of weathering for the engine itself to make it to accentuate the shadows, and then the decals and clear coat for the body panels, and it should start taking shape quite quickly after this. So thank you for watching so far.